When we begin to explore mindfulness, an important component of that exploration is the awareness of what we're feeling, our emotions. The reason this is important is because we tend to act more from our emotions than we do from our thoughts or even our habits. In fact, I would say our habits, both good and bad, are as a result of our emotions. We have a thought, for example, it's 7 o'clock, time to relax, time perhaps for a gin and tonic. But it is not the thought that it is 7 o'clock that has us reaching for the bottle. It is the emotion we attach to the time to relax. That triggers the looking for the alcohol. And in this case, the reason we seek the alcohol is because we have associated it with a feeling of feeling good at the end of perhaps a hard day. Of course, when we create a habit in this way, it doesn't have to be a hard day. Any day will be good enough. We set it up as an emotional reward. And therefore, just preparing the drink alone starts to fire off the dopamine in our brains, making us feel good. Even if one drink leads to another, or possibly another, or even if we have a problem stopping. The same triggers, the same things that trigger the drinking in the evening for one person, triggers eating for another, perhaps drug taking for another, destructive sexual relationships for others, arguments, fast driving, compulsive social media actions, and so on. It is the power of our emotions driving us to avoid pain and suffering and to seek pleasure. This is how advertising works. Advertising is designed to draw on your pains, on your sufferings and your fears, and to offer you things that will alleviate them or that will bring you joy, or both. Ads trigger our emotions through irrational thoughts that have become habit. And then these irrational thoughts feed our emotions, which then cause us to act. Are you too fat? Then take this. Is your hair too dry? Then take this. Life is hard. Drink this fizzy drink and we will make you smile. This is what the ad says. But of course the underlying message is, does no one like you because you're fat? Do you feel unloved because of your weight? Why don't you simply stop the suffering by buying our product? Are the boys looking at the other girls because your hair is dry? Do you feel inadequate? Do you feel less than the other girls? This must make you feel bad. So why not buy our product and alleviate your suffering? Life is pretty hard. It's nothing but suffering from one end to another. Buy our drink and smile. This is what advertising does. It plays on our emotions, and the reason it plays on our emotions, because our emotions drive our behavior. Thoughts create those emotions, but it's the emotions that we notice. We don't tend to notice the thoughts. The power of your emotions is very, very strong. Mindfulness will begin to allow you to recognize these emotions and see them for what they are. It will allow you to separate them out and see the mental and emotional knots that bind and twist together into forms you mistakenly call your identity. These feelings you have, they are not your identity. They are the identity of your egoic self. The thought and emotion-built self that exists in the human part of who we are, and the framework of which is built on fear and pain and suffering. It is built on everything bad, and in fairness, everything good that has ever happened to you, and what you did, thought, or acted to get through it. Mindfulness, though, can reveal the real you, the inner you that exists below the egoic self, the you that is built on the interconnectedness of all things, that is built on the very energy of life itself. And that deeper inner self does not suffer. For it does not live in the past or the future like the mind does. It knows nothing of these things. It only knows the now. If we can start with the basic understanding that we are all human beings, and that the egoic part of who we are, our thoughts, our emotions, physical actions, our plans, hopes and dreams, are best described as the human part of that phrase, the human being, and that the inner being, the essence of the awareness or the consciousness behind the human part of us, that part of us that knows we are thinking or doing or feeling, planning, hoping or dreaming, that is the being part of the phrase, the human being. The more often we can connect with the now, the more often we can break free of the suffering of the human part of who we are. The more often we can break free of the past and the future, the better we're able to engage with the human life, that egocentric part of us. Sometimes when we practice mindfulness, we can fall into the trap of seeing emotions as the enemy. This isn't the case. Our emotions, once we recognize them, are the key to what is going on in the deeper part of our outer egoic self. For example, if you spend a lot of time feeling sad, then we know that our thoughts are telling us that whatever is going on in our lives is not how our mind thinks it should be. But our thoughts are a bit like code in a computer. They create the program that is then expressed as an emotion. Change the programming and the outcome or emotion changes with it. Our emotions are the compass of where our life is and is currently heading. By learning to first identify them and then to discover the thought processes that are going on behind them, we can begin to change the programming that causes negative emotions. The way to do this is to go deep. Deeper than the layers of the egoic self, past the actions, past the emotions and the feelings and the thoughts, down to the level of the non-suffering self. Bad programming or thoughts can much more easily be seen from this position of the inner self. The reality of those thoughts can then be better understood and change can begin to happen. Mindful living, meditation and breath work are how we brush aside the detritus of the egoic self and reveal the light of the inner self. And it is from there that we can then build a more true, happy and enjoyable life as we realign our egoic self with the reality of the non-suffering inner self. Don't forget, if you enjoy these contemplation points, please hit the subscribe button below. Or if you want to learn more about mindfulness, then why not sign up for our free 10-minute meditations, or check in with us at the Dynamic Identity website, or perhaps enroll in our 16-module Teach Me Mindfulness course. The links to all of which are in the description below. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.